Hello, everybody. Nice of you all to come on this lovely day. Well, it's lovely at the moment. We've had pouring rain as well, but there we are. Now, what I'm going to do today is to work on this top area here to bring it up to the level of the area down here below. So I'm not planning on finishing it. I'm just planning on though that might happen. I'm just planning on going a little bit further to make this look more like racemes of laburnum than great splotches of paint. So I've got a relatively small brush for me. And, oh, sorry, it'll be a short hiatus while I add some I think whatever it's called, this lemon stuff. That dilutes the paint a bit. There we are. That's better. Right. So the idea of this is that by twisting it, I'll be able to get the feeling that the racemes are falling from the various things that I'm trying to paint. The only decision I really have to make is where to start. Do I start down here or do I start up there? And I think I'm going to start up here. Now, I'm not going to change the colour a lot. This is a mixture of lemon yellow with either a bit of blue or a bit of green in it. I'm not sure which. So we'll try it and see. I have lemon yellow. Touch of green in it to see what happens. Well, it's made a slightly brighter colour, so maybe that would be a good idea. I'm just going to twist the brush. This is where there's an advantage in the underpainting, because that will give variety to the all I'm doing is rolling the brush as I'm coming down. I'm holding it very lightly and just rolling it to suggest it. They're big and a bit clumsy, so I'll obviously have to do it again with something smaller, but that's what I'm doing at the moment. And it seems to be doing what I want it to do. Now, there's a lot more variation in there, so I'm going to add a bit more green to that, getting a slightly dark colour, and put a bit of that in. Add a little bit more green still. I think I'm going to put a touch of blue in this time as well. I'm mixing the blue with the lemon, and that's giving me altogether darker. Because this bit up in this corner is not in the bright sunlight. The bright sunlight's over here and across here. So although this has got to look right, it's also not got to take over the stage. I'll go across a bit now. When we get over here, they look a bit more yellow rather than lemon, so I'm going to put some cadmium yellow in the mix. So it's more that colour. And it seems to come down here. So the purpose of putting it in the mix is to keep the colour fairly dull, but to suggest that it's a more golden colour here. Right. Let's see what we can do with making little marks. So I'm tapping it now. Go back to the lemon. Go back to the green. So I'm mixing it up all the time. It's so easy to get hung up on one colour, especially if you're enjoying making funny marks. When we get over here, it's almost white, as if you could actually see through to the sky beyond. But the sky in this reproduction is white rather than blue or grey. But if we want to suggest sunlight, we can't have a grey sky. We've got to do something different. I think the blue makes a better dark for those areas that I want dark. I don't want it too dark. But there are little dark areas down here as well. I think I could take some of that dark back in here because we seem to have lost some of the darks up in this area here. It's so easy to get carried away, isn't it? Right, now then. To paint the white, I really need a clean brush. Otherwise it just picks up the colour of whatever's there. Not that that's wrong, but now I'm not trying to paint the racines this time. I'm trying to paint between the racines, if you like, to suggest the sky. I'm using neat white but I think the taupe that I've used got a bit of discoloration in it, so it's coming out a bit purply. But that's okay. It works with the yellows very well. Don't want to overdo it. But if I get it on first, then any colour I put on top will be mixed with it rather than it being mixed with them. A little bit more here too. So the light is dropping through the branch. I think that's working quite nicely there. It's got a fall to it that that's quite attractive. A lot of the time you have to be looking at this rather than at your picture, because this is where the work is. This is where the excitement is, or the interest is. Right, I'm going back to my bright yellows now. And because I've got a mucky brush, they're coming out in different colours, which is rather fun. Memo to self, don't always clean your brush, it's not necessary. You can get a lot more interest. I might actually tone down that white later on if I find that it's a bit stark. We're doing all right at the moment. Thing is to suggest as many broken edges as you can, and don't try and paint every wretched racine. Vary the colour as often as you can remember to change what paint you're using. Don't be afraid to use the paint neat, because there's paint already on here, so it's easy enough to find that it mixes with the colour that's already on the canvas and gives you something different as well. Yeah, it's working quite nicely. Quite pleased with that. It really is just more of the same. There's quite a dark patch here that I have overpainted too much. And it's adding to the picture because it's providing variety and suggesting light and shade and branches coming forward and going back. So we want to keep that feeling going if we can. Right. Now, this dark patch here is quite nicely placed. It's a bit strong in places, but we can do something about that. If I make a slightly lighter dark, if you see what I mean. And again, making these broken shapes rather than great splotches of paint. It just adds to the feeling of the seams dropping down. As you break up the strokes underneath, they're still there, they're still adding to the picture, contributing to the picture, but they are not an important part of the picture anymore. They're not dominating the picture anymore. Right, down then. This part here, I think if I'm attempting a lighter dark green here, so that it's less of a it's less strident. I haven't used white at all to mix any of the colours. What I've attempted to do is to use lemon rather than white to suggest the different colours that are there. Right, getting there. It's a bit, what happens here? This comes through here. That's a bit big. Right, now here, there is an arc of quite bright yellow. So I'm going to use the brush I used for the white, because that's got that fairly clean. I mean, if I mix white with the lemon, it won't hurt. In fact, it's actually doing good, getting quite a nice light, bright I can just indicate where it is to start with. I don't lose myself in it. Sort of. Now, this is a mixture of lemon and white. If you want a really pale colour, you need a clean brush if you've been working with a dark one. There's dirt on the brush there. That's more or less where the curve is. So I want to vary the color now. So I'm going to go in with neat lemon, which is a bit darker, because the racemes will catch the light differently. I think I'll need a thinner brush to do the long bits. You've got to vary how you tackle it, otherwise everything looks the same. It's just a set of spots. And since I don't want it to be pugilistic, right, now I could also put in a bit of the cadmium yellow now, I think. I'll mix the cadmium with the lemon. It just takes the edge off the cadmium so that it's not quite so intense as that over there. I want it in a sort of arc if I can manage that. It's great having the screen showing the painting, because I don't have to get up, walk back to find out what I'm doing. So this is a bonus. It's been a fairly spotty afternoon, but you know, it is what it is. Pull it down here a bit. This down here is where it goes. Pick up some of the green, because we want a little variation in here. There is some from the background, but not necessarily in the right place. Could do add a bit more blue to that, because the brights will look brighter if the darks are darker. And the preponderance of the dark marks over here, that is a bit strong. I'll probably take that back a bit. In fact, I think I'll do that now. I now have two dirty brushes. So, so I'll take some of this up here, just to knock this back a bit. Got a bit too adventurous there. Nearly there. I think it's looking a bit more like a laburnum now. Which is helpful. Now we've got to come over this area here. And it's quite how much time have we got, Rachel?
About 10 minutes.
Oh, that's right. Right.
Maybe a bit less.
Okay. So I'm mixing the lemon with the green because it is dark. Let's try a touch of raw sienna in there, see if that does anything.
10 minutes now.
Right. Thank you. Well, that's giving me a different colour, which is always useful. This is darker. I need that to be darker. I think that's overdone it, also. Just adjusting the colours, really, adjusting the tones, not the colours so much. Put this in here, strokes, and it needs to be broken up so that I'm not really changing the colour much, but I'm changing the texture. Are we back? Yes, we're back. Yeah. Welcome back. We don't know what happened, but whatever it was, we're back. So we've got this dark patch here, which it goes quite deep, and then there's a sort of fringe of yellow, the brightness that comes across the bottom there. And we'll see what we can do about that. I hold my breath here actually. Hoping that it's going to. It's going to work. Well, right. I think I'll stop there anyway, because it's pretty wet. If I start to go back into that, it's going to be more difficult to make adjustments. But what I've done is to break the surface that I put on originally, where I put the blocks of colour. Very often not changing the colour at all, but changing the texture of what actually appears on the canvas. And next week, what I'll be doing is looking at it to see what I can do to finish it, to make it not a painting in progress, but a completed work.